I was a little girl, I suffered from toothache. I woke up one day with this sharp, stabbing pain around my tooth. Throughout the day, it got worse and worse, until it felt like millions of hot, burning needles being pushed into my flesh underneath my tooth. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I couldn't think. All there was pain. So the next morning, I told my parents, and they took me by the hand and they drove me to the dentist. I didn't have an appointment, so I had to wait for hours. But I remember these hours felt like an eternity to me. When it was finally my turn to see the dentist, it was horrible. There was drilling, there was cleaning, there was crying. But after a few days, the pain was gone. So this is how I grew up. I grew up with the understanding of living in a world where this is how it works when you're in pain. You tell your loved ones, they hold you by the hand, you go see a doctor, and you get helped. Growing older, I found out that this is not always how it goes. A couple of years ago, I had a friend who was, one might say, in a similar situation to the one that I was in back when I was little. She was in severe pain. My friend did not suffer from a toothache, though. My friend was suffering from a depression. What this means is that her pain was not limited to her tooth, but it was also in her legs, and in her stomach, and in her head. It was sitting on her chest and inside her heart. The millions of hot, burning needles that I felt so strongly back when I was little, they were everywhere to her. Just like me, she couldn't eat, she couldn't sleep, she couldn't think. All there was pain. Yet, when my friend called for help, no one took her by the hand. And when she went to see a doctor, she was sent away. She went from doctor to doctor to doctor, and from waiting list to waiting list to waiting list. And in the end, it took her 5 months before she got care. Thinking back to the hours that I had to wait at the dentist, I cannot imagine what 5 months would have done to me. And since then, I kept asking myself why. What was the difference in the situation that I was in compared to the situation that my friend was in? We were both in pain, we both needed help. Why did I, with the pain of a toothache, receive help whilst my friend who was suffering from something just as real and just as painful, though maybe not as visible, was neglected by the healthcare system? And I tell you something, and this is the scary part now. My friend, she's not the exception, she's the rule. It is across the world, in so-called developed countries, that people with mental health disorders, like a depression, like an anxiety, are being neglected by healthcare systems. My old view of a world where if you need help, you receive help was wrong. Instead, we are living in a world where if you have a broken arm or a toothache or an open wound, you have people holding your hands and you get help straight away, whilst when you suffer from the severe agony of a depression or of an anxiety, people run away from you and you wait months before you receive care. And I'm here to say today that I do not understand and that I definitely do not approve. There are 600 million people out there in this world who suffer from a depression or an anxiety, which is almost 1/10 of the population, and the number keeps rising. And still, mental illness remains in the shadow. So I'm asking, what do you people need to take mental illness seriously? What do you need to finally treat depression as a proper illness? Do you need some sort of physical effects? Because look at an fMRI scan of a person with depression, you will see that there is changes to the brain of a person with depression, and that there's loads of physical symptoms being associated with it, like back pain, like limb pain, like joint pain. Or do you need financial impacts? Because then I tell you that the lack of treatment of depression and anxiety costs the global economy $1 trillion each year, which is just as much as cancer costs us? Or do you need deadly consequences? Because then I tell you that more people die because they kill themselves due to depression than they die because of homicide or because of car accidents. It is now the second leading cause of death in the United States among the youth. And in fact, since I've started giving this talk, about 15 people somewhere around this world will have taken their own lives due to an untreated depression. So I say, it's time to change. It's time to change the way we think about mental illness. It's time to change the way we treat mental illness. There's so many new possibilities nowadays. There's so many new treatment options. Why do we not take advantage? One example is technology. I studied psychology at the University of Cambridge, where I learned that there's so many new ways in which technology can help to provide better care to people. So this year, we founded our own company called Selfie, with which we provide online psychotherapy to people with depression, with burnout, and with anxiety disorders. Our psychologists, they work around the clock so that people who need help can actually get helped within 24 hours. What we do is we developed online courses with which we teach the patients the strategies of cognitive behavioral therapy. So eventually, they will be able to help themselves because they know the techniques. Our psychologists also speak to them on the phone weekly, so they have someone to speak to and talk about their problems. And we're creating a community where people can learn to support each other, where people can speak to each other, where people know that there's others out there who feel just like them, where people know that it's okay not always to be okay. Since we started, we had thousands of people signing up. And I think that this is great, and I'm happy about it. But here's what I also want to say. It also makes me sad. It makes me sad that so many people have to come to us because they're not given help by the traditional healthcare system. It makes me sad that so many people have to come to us because they're on the 10th waiting list, because the insurance doesn't cover the costs, because they've only been medicated for years and now finally need someone to talk to because they cannot go to a doctor because they're too afraid of what others might think about them. It makes me sad that so many of them are under 18, and it makes me sad that so many of them have the concrete plans to take their own lives. Because this tells me that it is real, that the stigma is real, that the intolerance is real, that the shame is real, and that treatment options are appalling. Still, I do believe that there is hope. With Selfie, with our online psychotherapy, we're now in the process of integrating our service with general practitioners, with self-help groups, and with insurances. And I see that things like that are happening somewhere around the world, across Europe. So I say that there is hope, but also that so much more needs to change, because it's not enough. Something fundamental needs to change in people's heads so that we do take mental illness seriously, so that we treat depression as a proper illness. So I'm calling out for more psychotherapists. I'm calling out for shorter waiting times. I'm calling out for less pure medication treatment. I'm calling out for insurances to cover costs. I'm calling out for more people to hold each other's hands, and to the politicians who sit there deciding who gets treatment and who doesn't. Make mental health a policy priority. Treat depression as a proper illness. Give it the attention that it needs to have. Thank you.